All right, everyone can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
So yesterday we have completed up to if block and we will continue from there. So we have while, range, for. So we'll complete all these operations today. So tomorrow there will be a session on advanced concept, that is OOPS, object-oriented programming language. So while loop is going to be very much similar to if block. Let me copy it. It's going to be while, condition, and at the same colon, and a bunch of statements. Anything that is outside of it, it's not going to come under the while block. But one change is that compared to if block, if block check the condition and gets into it, it executes only once. Only once. Check the condition. If it is true, execute it, or else skip it. Whereas while is going to be kind of loop. It's going to keep on checking the condition. I mean to say, once it check the condition, it executes the statement, and it go backs again and check the condition. If it is true, and then it executes again. And again, it go back to the condition and checks the condition. And if it is true, again, it's going to keep on executing it. It's a kind of loop. But one thing we need to keep in mind is that when the condition becomes true, if it executes, and if it check the condition again it will become true. It will not become false, right? So we need to have increment or decrement in it. So we need to have increment or decrement to the variable or the expression that we use. Even before that, we need to have initialization of that variable. Let me take an example. Take x equal to 0 while x is less than or equal to 10. Okay, and we will have some statements in it. We need to increment it. Let's take x plus equal to 1. So this will keep on incrementing it from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and so on and so forth. This is a loop, right? And the statement, let's take that I want to print x. You can see that 0 to 10. What if I don't increment it? Let's ignore. Let me comment this out and execute this one. It keep on executing, keep on giving zeros. There is no increment. It has not ended. You can see an asterisk. Asterisk indicates that it is still in process of execution. It is still executing, right? I need to stop this by clicking on this one. Okay, it's just going, I know, not enough memory to open this page. Let me refresh this page again. Go back here. Okay, you can see that it has not even, that the previous code that I have written has terminated. So you need to be very careful to include increment or decrement based on requirement. Let's take while x is less than, same example, x is less than 10, print x. So again, I made the same mistake. And here I need to increment. You got the result 0, 10. Or I said increment or decrement, right? The reason. All right. So increment or decrement. So suppose if I have 10, and in that case, I want to print from 10 to 0, 10 to 1, then I need to write like x is greater than 0. In this case, I need to decrement it, 10 minus 1, 10 minus, and then it needs to keep on decreasing. In this case, we're going to get 10 to 1. So increment, you have seen an example, and decrement, you have seen an example. But initialization is very important. So this is how while loop works. Initialization, and then the expression of the condition. And of course, we can have more than one statement. Here I have only one statement, and increment or decrement based on how you initialize, how you write the expression of condition. So any questions on this?
No, sir.
All right, so the next one is the range. So usually when we have, let's take x equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we are manually writing these values, isn't it? There is a way to get these values automatically. 1, 2, let's take 5. If I write 5, autobound is not going to get included. So we need to increment 1. I mean to say 5 plus 1. So we get the range, but you can see that it has not displayed it, right? So if I loop it, I'm going to get the result. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say that I want, instead of like, say that 20, I can automatically get the whole range. But in this case, we need to manually feed it. But if you need this data in the form of a list, you need to use list comprehension. I'm going to use the same thing, I'm going to convert this code into list comprehension. Just focus on this. List comprehension, we need to wrap in square brackets. We need to keep everything in one line. And instead of having, you don't require print, you can simply leave this one. Whereas this I should come at the start, not at the end. And we don't require this colon. If you exclude this, you can see that we got 1 to 19 because outer bound is not going to get included. Outer, so we need to add 1. So 20 plus 1, 21. Now you got 1 to 20. You can give any up to any range you want. It's much better way to generate sequential data rather than creating a list like this. Right? Any questions? How to write for loop? So for loop is basically like it's going to loop to whichever the list. Let's say that I have taken the same list X. Here I have taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? If I can even loop that one. We're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take 6, 7. You can loop it. It not to be just a list, it can be even a tuple. You can see what the result. So it's going to be like I in whatever the object that you want to provide, you can provide it. It could be range or list or it could be tuple. It can be even dictionary. We have seen an example on dictionary yesterday, right? For key val in dictionary dot items, right? The same example. Any questions on for loop, list comprehension, range, while? List comprehension, we'll see more examples in generative AI. So don't worry if you don't understand it. It's a shortcut notation of what the usual for loop does, but it's going to return in the form of list. And we can even apply on dictionary. So yesterday we have seen example. Let's do that again. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. For key val in my big items, key val can print it. We can even do some concatenation kind of. Key is this number here, not the value. We don't need to, we can do some processing. We can even apply for loop against dictionary. We need to use items, or else by default it is going to be keys. It's going to apply only on keys, right? Items is going to give a list of tuples. The same dictionary, each key value is going to be one tuple. Key and value, key and value, key and value. Any questions on this one applying on dictionary for loop? Next one is going to be, we can even apply on a strings. Let's take our for loop. So let's take machine learning, right? If I loop it and try to print I, it's going to be each letter including that, it includes space. If I try to give more space, you can see that there is space in between. Even space is a character, and each letter has been printed in this form. We can even convert this into list comprehension. List comp, how do we do that? We need to first convert this into one line. We don't require print. We need to wrap this thing in square brackets, and this I should come at the start, not at the end. What's the first I and second I? I mean, it's a loop. There is such thing as first I and second I. Which I you are pointing to? And we don't require the colon. Can you explain me what are so can you unmute yourself and raise your question? All right. So when I think I was explaining the loop. I don't know which one you're really pointing to. All right. So the same thing, you can get the same result, but in the form of a list. You can even store it in a variable, right? My list now. Got the result, right? Fine. So any questions on the for loop? These four concepts are very important. If, while, range, for, even list comprehensions. The next one is reserve keywords. Suppose when we use a variable, for example, let's take x equal to 5. It's a variable, right? What if I use a variable called def 10? Can we use that? It says syntax are invalid syntax. The reason for that is you can see that it is appearing in green. Okay, it's appearing in green, but clearly indicates that this one is different from this one. But just based on that, we can't decide whether we need to use it or not. There are certain keywords in Python. In fact, any programming language you take are not allowed to use it in the form of variables or any other place you want. It has a predefined meaning. It has to use whatever that is being defined in the documentation, right? Whatever it is being predefined for. So in this case, if you want to know the complete list of it, complete list of keyword, what you can do is keyword kw list. You can see complete list here. So do we have def in keyword list? True, it is there. So we should not use this def in the for variables and all. In fact, this is not the complete list. There is another one, import built-ins. If I use dir, it's going to give me all that keywords, whatever it supports. We can again this if you observe this is a list, and even this is also keyword dot kw list is also a list. So we can concatenate, right? Well, what we can do is we can concatenate using class. This will give the complete list of keywords. So what we can do is if you want to check, let's take lambda. Is it a keyword or not? It is a keyword. What about stdio? In C, it is a keyword. It's false. We can use it. So can we use that? Let's experiment that. Let's take 26. Yes, I can use it. Or can we use include? It says false. Include, I can use it. Can use it. You can see that, right? As long as this is not part of this, we can use it. Def is a keyword. While creating functions, we use the def. So internally, it has a predefined meaning. We should not use it for variables and other bases. It has a predefined meaning. It def need to be used only when you define a function. So it is difficult to answer in chat. I request you to have microphone. Naren. It is difficult to keep on checking, chat. Have a microphone. So at least by tomorrow, prepare, have a microphone. Any questions on reserved keywords?
No, sir, from my side.
Okay, next one is user-defined functions. We all we have seen functions to we have seen a lot of functions, right? But if you want to have your own function, let's take my edition. You can use def and whatever the function name that you want. And within round brackets, you need to mention the parameters. You can have as many parameters as you want. Not all the cases you need to have parameters. You can even leave it blank. Again, it's going to have the same structure, the colon, and it will have statements. That is how typically it's going to be. In this case, I want to have two parameters, and it has to return x plus y. The way I can use this is its name. I need to pass two parameters. Let's take 2 comma 3. It is returning me what? 2 plus 3 is 5. Of course, we can even print this. For example, let me, instead of return, right? So I'm going to print it. You can see you got the same result. There is a difference between a return and print. Let me, so I will do one thing. I will my edition return, and this is my edition print. Okay. And this is my edition print, right? My edition print returns the same result. My edition return also returns same result, 2 comma 3 5. There's no difference, but there is a subtle difference between print and returns. You should always use return, not print. Reason for that is if I store this in a variable, let's take a, right, and this one in b. If I try to print a, you're not going to get anything, even though it prints file. Prints only prints on the screen. It will not allow you to store it in other variable, whatever this returns, whatever this output is. Whereas this one returns will return the actual value. So you're going to, you can store it in a variable. So that is the difference between return and print. I hope you got the difference. Any questions on that? And even the how to define a function, how to pass the parameters. We can even have default values. For example, let's take I want to have 1, 1. As I told you that we have to use return, not print. And my addition, if I provide, let's say 2 comma 3, it's going to give me the result. Let's say 3 comma 3 is going to give me 6. What if I don't provide anything? It is going to take the same default parameters. 1 plus 1, 2. So that's the reason we got 2. What if I provide y equal to 2? In that case, x is the value for x, the default value for x is 1, right? It's going to calculate 1 plus 2. It's going to give me 3. So the advantage of having default values, even if you don't provide the values, it is going to take the default values. I mean to say, even if you don't provide the arguments, it is going to take the default values. Any questions on that? If you don't provide the default values, you have to provide the values. So there is no way that you can skip it. Suppose if I have provided default value only for x, I have not provided for y. In that case, if I skip it, it's going to give me error. So I have to provide, whether if I want to provide x value, that's fine. But if you don't provide for y, then you have to, it's going to give me an error. In this case, y equal to, sorry, what happens? So What an unexpected, okay. Sorry, I need to provide by, right? Yeah. What happens? So non-default argument. It says, okay, it's what it says is first non-default argument should come first and then later. Okay, now this will work. Any questions on how we define function and what is the difference between print and return and what these default values are? I mean, default parametric values are.
No, sir, here one question, sir.
Yeah.
Here you mention y and default value x equal to 1 in my addition print function.
Right.
So let's say here you can mention the variable name. So if I give comma
Not the
and
variable. There's a parameter names. Different. There is a different.
parameters names. Yeah,
Yeah,
parameters
parameters.
name. So in the first parameter, if I not passing any value, comma, if I pass x equal to 3, then it will work, sir.
If we don't pass the value here,
Yeah, comma,
okay,
then I pass x is equal to 5.
no, that is not going to work.
No, y is equal to, let's say in the parameter, in the function definition, y is equal to 2. Yeah.
Okay, then it will work because x is going to take the x value automatically. It's 2 plus 1. It will work.
Okay.
All right, the next one is lambda functions. The real use case of lambda functions you will come to know in pandas, but I will explain how to convert a function to lambda function. For example, let's take a simple one. Okay, no need to make it complex. So it's simply going to take my addition, okay, and 5, my addition, with the 1 comma 2, it gives me the result. Sorry, what happened? Oh, sorry, I need to provide this, right? All right. So the same function we can convert into one line. Lambda functions, otherwise called as anonymous functions. When we say anonymous, which is nothing but nameless. Instead of lambda, we need to convert into instead of def, we need to make it as lambda. And as this is anonymous function, nameless function, we don't require the name, and we can have everything in one line, and we don't require return. We don't require round brackets around parameters. This is lambda function. So,
Sir, it is not clear, sir. So,
yeah,
please
so
explain one more time.
Yeah, just focus on how we can convert a function to lambda function, at least for now. In pandas, I will explain this concept again. So let me take the same one. So instead of def, you need to write it as lambda, right? It is nameless function, anonymous function. So we don't require the name for it. We don't require round brackets. Okay. We need to keep everything in one line. We don't require return. I'm deleting a lot of stuff. Deleted return. I don't require name, round brackets around it, just x comma y. I need to replace def with lambda. Okay. So here it doesn't make any sense, but when a function allows us to pass another functional method, then we are going to use lambda functions. Or in this case, let me take my add. I'm going to store in a variable. Let's take a 2 comma 3. Is going to work just like the way this works. But there is one more bigger advantage of using lambda functions that I'm going to explain in pandas. Right now, focus on only these examples. How to take this function, convert this into lambda, how we can assign it into a variable that is going to in turn become a function, and how we can get the result just like the way we got it here. Is that clear?
Yes.
Any questions on lambda functions? And we're going to use lambda functions more very frequently. So don't worry, by the end of the course, you'll definitely understand what lambda functions are. Right now, focus on how to convert a normal one-line function into lambda function. That's all. If the function is more complex, then don't use lambda functions.
So in a lambda, we at a time can we do only one operation addition like that, or multiple can we do by?
Yeah, if it is more complex, we can make it more complex. But if it is more complex, better to have a method or function.
Okay.
Yes. Let's not make it complex. So it's only for simple operations, especially when you want to pass this function as a parameter to another.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. The last one is file label operations. I have few files here. What is the structure? Let me check. I think I have few text files here, test.txt, test1.txt, right? So if you want to read a text file, you need to use open function. Okay. So you need to mention the, I think it's test.txt, right? Yeah. You need to mention the file name. This is a text file. It can be any other format also. Usually for typical file file formats like log file or text file, we are going to use this. Okay, modifiers in the sense there will be another session on advanced concepts and additional features in Python. We're going to discuss at the end, but we don't really require modifiers or decorators kind of, in AI. I hope you got the point. We're going to have a discussion on that. So decorators, generators, the modifiers, but we're going to discuss it at the end of the course. Right? But being an AI engineer, you don't really require to be good at that. So we're going to discuss all the basics that are necessary for machine learning. But there are some additional features we're going to discuss at the end. Decorative generators, modifiers. Right. So this is the how you can read the file test.txt. It is not really giving me anything. So mode is directly R in the sense read. You better mention it explicitly. But again, it's not giving me the actual data, right? You need to store it in a variable. And then on top of this, there are a bunch of methods. Let's take a read. It will allow us to read the data. You can see now it has read the data. Let me check what really this file has.
Sir, how it is pulling from path? Because here any path is not mentioned.
We haven't mentioned the path because the file is right away in this in the same folder where we have the script.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this test.txt. If it is in some other path, obviously we need to mention the whole path or relative path at least, right? So whenever you read the data, you need to close it. So, but if you try to read this again, you're not going to get anything because this test.txt file, once we read it, it's going to place the cursor at the end. If you try to read this back again, it's not going. You're not going to have any data. So that's the reason it's giving me blank. So you need to close this and then reopen it and then read it. See, in this case, it's not slashing, it's displaying slashing. Not to interpret properly, better you mention print. You can see that it has displayed the way it is, right? Whatever it is. And if you try to read this back again, you're going to get blank. But if you want this back again without closing it, there is a way to do that. Seek is going to place the cursor wherever you point the index. So 0 means start. Okay. The next one is this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, kind of. So I'm going to place the seek 0. If I try to read this again, you're going to get the data. Whenever you complete the operation, close it, or else it is going to sit in memory and it is going to become a hurdle to other operations. It's not going to get deleted. Okay, so any questions on this? How to read a file using open?
No, sir.
So if you want to go back again, so it will not allow you to read again, right? If I try to read this again, it's going to give me blank. So Naren, you have to have microphone. Okay. So at least respond back. Please arrange a microphone. Have a microphone by tomorrow. Will you? Yeah, we're going to discuss types of modes, types of modes. So we have discussed only R. We have a few other modes too.
Can we read middle of the text like that, sir? If you told I missed that one, can we read middle of the text or something like that?
We need to place the seek to the appropriate index.
Okay.
Else you can read the line. You can read even line by line. So Naren, can you respond back to me? So will you arrange a microphone by tomorrow? To have microphone by tomorrow. Thanks. So we can read line by line. I have not completed other modes, so we just started this thing, right? We'll discuss other modes also.
Okay.
So read line. Let's take. Let me read this back again. It's not just read. We have read line also. Read line. It is going to read line by line. The first line in this case, it's blank line, so that's the reason it's giving me /n. Let me read this back again. Control Enter. And second line. This is second line, right? So instead of read, read will give read all the data. I have not executed this again. I have executed this and straight away gone to this. If I execute this, if I execute this, it will press the cursor at the end. It will not allow me to read this, right? So I'm going to execute again, second line, and I'm going to execute this again, third line. Execute this again, it's going to give me blank because the cursor is placed here. So seek, we can make it to, we can point the pointer to any index you want. I'm going to close this. So any questions on read mode? How to read the data? Read the whole data, read the line. How to reset the index so that we can read this back again. How to close it? Any questions on that? All right, the next one is we can read the data, but we can't write the data. So in order to write the data, we had W mode. W mode is for read, is for R is for read, W is for write. Okay, so I'm going to take the file. We are not going to read, we can't read the data. Let me do this. You can see that it is not readable. In write mode, we can't read. In read mode, we can't write. Let me change this one, f dot write. I'm going to write some, let's say this is line 25. I'm going to write the text. Okay, let me execute this. I'm going to close this. See, it doesn't make any sense here. Okay, so I have closed it. Let me go back, close this. If I open this file, you can see we got this line 25. It has erased the old data. So write mode will overwrite the data. It will not keep, it's not going to keep the old data. In order to solve that, there is a method called append the data. So let's use the append. Going to okay. We can't read the data, of course, in append. We can write the data. In this case, what I can do is, if I use line 26, what happens? Okay, let me explore this blindly. I'm going to close this one. Let me reopen the file. Okay. See what happened. It has not appended the new line. It has appended the data. It has not overwritten, by the way. It has appended in the same line, right? In order to solve that, append does much better than write because it appends the data. It does not overwrite the data, right? But the problem is it's going to append on the same line. So in order to have in the new line, you need to mention slash n. Slash n indicates new line. So it explicitly gives the instruction that it has to enter the new line, and then it has to enter this text. So in this case, 27, right? 27. Okay, so let me execute this. And then, of course, we can't read. I'm going to write, I'm going to close. Let me reopen. So you can see that line 27 is a new line. This one, of course, we have to manually do that, right? Okay, any questions on write and append? I hope you got the difference between write and append, right? Write will write the data, but the problem is we can't read and it is going to overwrite. Whereas append data, again, we can't read, but it will not overwrite the data. It's going to append to whatever we want, but it's not going to append in the new line. So in order to get things in new line, you need to mention slash n. But if you don't want to have a new line and want to append the text, whatever at the end, we can continue the same way. Fine, the next one, I hope you don't have any questions. The next one is R plus, wherein we can read and write. Read and write. Let's see that. Okay, I'm going to execute this. I'm trying to read the data. I can read the data. I can even write it. For example, in 28, the cursor is placed at the end. So make sure that you place whenever you write something, make sure that cursor should be at the end. Okay. In this case, when we execute this, read will place the cursor at the end. The slash n is going to print the new line, this line 28. Perfect. So I'm going to read, I have read the data and written the data, going to close this. So let me go back and open the text. You can see there's line 28. So R plus mode is the more frequent mode that we usually, but in some case we want to read, we just want to read, in that case, go for R. What is 16 in 108? Which one you're pointing to? Which one is 16? Okay, this one. This is an index, like where the pointer is, index, where it has been entered. This is just an index. Yeah. Where the data has been placed. That's all.
Sir,
Fine.
in this case, read and write means in the write operation, it is not overwriting the whole content in the text.
There is a possibility to overwrite or place in the middle. So what I did is I read the data. So when I read the data, the cursor has been placed here. By default, it's going to be here. So the problem is that if you, okay, let me read this again. Okay, I'm not going to read the data. I'm going to write it. So without even slash n, let me write and close. If I try to read, open the file, see what happens. Where do you have the data now? Line 29 came in the start, right?
Oh, it's
Yes.
placed at starting.
Yes. So the reason why I read the data is that the cursor will be at the end. So I not to count where the index is. I not to remember the index. So if I read the data, it's going to place at the cursor at the end, and I can easily write it. That is, if that is what you need, go for this. But in the case of log files, they keep on appending at the start. So in that case, this will work fine. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that's it on file level operations. We'll continue tomorrow with advanced OOPS concepts. I think the file has been provided already. So discuss object-oriented programming. Tomorrow will be the last session on Python, but there will be another session at the end of the course with like what are the new features like generators, decorators, and all. Right? All right. That's it for today. It's a short session. If you have questions, let me know, or else you can log off. Can we read and append? Yeah, that's exactly what we did, right? With R plus, it depends on where the cursor, where you point the cursor. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.